let's start with the person who retired most recently, although I've learned maybe that was Matt. But both of you stopped playing quite recently in the last couple of years. And Tina, you went right into your next entrepreneurial move, and that is beer, which might surprise people. Talk to me about the career transition.
Yeah, just want to say hi to everybody. Thanks for being here. For me personally, I just always thought that your career shouldn't end just because the game does. I was always very intentional about what I was doing and what I was building while I was playing. And towards the end, it started from my nonprofit. We raised awareness to sudden cardiac arrest replacement of AEDs, through building a school in Africa, directing and producing films that premiered at Tribeca, and then I just fell in love with storytelling. So when it comes to 78 Brewing Co., which you mentioned, my beer, the flagship beer is a 78-0. My last 2 years at UConn, 2009 and 2010, we had a 78-0 championship run. And I really just wanted to honor, as I looked back at my career and what we did, just wanted to honor those women. I know, crazy, right?
Casual.
And so I'm really happy and excited to launch 78 Brewing Co. It's just telling authentic stories through beer. Our manufacturing producer is in the state of Connecticut. Our distribution is throughout Connecticut, and we're being able to do a lot of great things. We have partnerships coming up with the WNBA and also in MLB. So the beer's here. It's lovely, and can't wait for you guys to try it.
Nice and cold. I'm going to be cracking it like
Beautiful
the
beer.
second we finish talking. Can we just take a sec, by the way? The reason the name is 78-0 season. I mean, crazy. Matt, talk to us a little bit about going to work for the front office of a team you played for, which does not always happen. It's pretty cool. And there's some kind of nice synergy here. Last night, Jarvis and Wale and I were chatting separately, and both of them mentioned that a real moment for them while they were playing of realization was, I should go talk to my team owner and learn a little bit and prepare for the post-career and learn about what the team owner does, how they succeeded in investing, and you're working for the team.
Yeah, I was always kind of interested in it. Dealing with the general manager, I had two of them when I was playing for the Islanders, Garth Snow and Lou Lamoriello. So even when I was younger, I was always kind of in there, whether I was getting yelled at for my play or not. But just kind of getting an understanding for the front office and how it works. And when I retired that summer, I kind of was deciding between potentially doing the front office thing or trying to get into the TV side of things. And, you know, to this day, I still don't know which one I would like better because I haven't done any of the TV stuff. But they offered me the position, and I felt like, you know, from talking to people, those opportunities in pro sports don't come obviously very often. You have 32 teams. There's only so many opportunities to do that. So they told me to try that first, and I really have enjoyed it. You know, I just wrapped up my first year doing it. It's a little bit different because you go from being the talent. That happened to me on the golf course yesterday. It ruined my round. You go from being the talent to kind of managing the talent, which is a little bit of an adjustment. But the thing I loved about it, and you guys could probably speak to this, so many people tell me the only thing they miss about playing is like the highs and the lows and the investment in the game and kind of getting your blood boiling a little bit in those big moments. So people that I talk to that are kind of doing the TV stuff don't really feel that. You know, this year I was able, you know, late in the game, it's a 2-1 game. You're watching from up top, seeing, you know, whether you tie a game or lose a game, the heartbreak, the excitement, all those things I think you miss as a player. You know, I don't miss traveling to Western Canada in, you know, the middle of the winter and
No?
running into people and getting into fights with people and that. But, you know, being able to still feel the emotion of it is a pretty special thing. And I was able to learn a lot this year. A little different, too, managing, like, some of these guys on the team are some of my best friends. You know, I played with them for 10-plus years. You know, and they're asking me my opinion of them as a player and so on and so forth. It's challenging right now, but, you know, as time passes, obviously, athletes' careers aren't that long. There'll be new blood in here, and I won't be as close with the players. So it really has been a great learning experience, and I've enjoyed it.
Jarvis, you stopped playing. It's already been 3 or 4 seasons. Doesn't feel like
Can't
that
believe
long.
it.
When was it?
Can't believe it.
So you're out the league. I know you've made some investments. Hyper Ice is on that list. Starting to think about what to do with your money. But let me ask you this way. like we discussed last night, what's the next chapter? What's the next scene in Juice Landry's movie?
Man, like I said yesterday too, like God's still writing it, right? Like I've been going through this thing for, first 2 years out the league, and Wale probably can attest to this in the NFL. Like your identity is a football player, right? So just finding out what that is, what are those things that I like to be doing. I missed a lot of time with my family. I missed a lot of time with my kids as a father. Those things that I took pride in because I grew up in a single parent home, right? So, a lot of those things were part of me, like re-identifying where I'm headed to, where the next chapter is going. And then, also from there is just making better decisions with your money, with your finances, right? I think we talked about it last night a little bit too. Like my biggest thing was, 15 years from now, what does it look like for my children? What does it look like for, their children, and making decisions today that, I would want to leave behind a good legacy for them and good, representation and have a good groundwork for them to, to follow, hopefully, right? So, yeah.
Wale, perfect now to come to you. I mean, we've got someone working in front office of a team he played for, got an entrepreneur who's launched multiple businesses, got someone who's made some investments, thinking about what's next. You advise athletes for UBS. Obviously, a lot of that is a little bit evergreen in the sense that there's smart advice, there's staying the course, there's how to invest long term, but there are also cutting edge trends in terms of what athletes want to do, their ambitions. What's the latest on what you're hearing from athlete clients on what they want to do with their money?
I think the biggest thing that we're hearing from athletes is that they don't want to be called athletes, right? They want to be considered businessmen and businesswomen and entrepreneurs. They are from a community of people who, over time, have put in their heart, soul, minds, blood, sweat into one singular thing, and they've actually become really good at that. And what we've realized at UBS is that these athletes very quickly can turn and pivot and take those same characteristics and attributes into corporate America and do extremely well. Hey, Trevor. Good to see Trevor in the crowd as the plane goes by. And I think it's a testament to the real stories, and I appreciate what front office is doing is because we're actually getting away from the headlines of athletes, doing the bonehead things and making mistakes, and the headlines that get people to watch TMZ and all of these gossip columns on Instagram, to really seeing that 99% of your athletes are really upstanding individuals who are able to contribute to society in a way that adds value to a lot of people from their communities, from their own communities, into other people's communities. And that's what we see at UBS. My mic is messing up right now. But for me, it's really a testament to what we thought was going to happen at UBS. We really wanted to take the stereotypes and the biases that come into play when we're giving advice to athletes and look at them really as individuals who have had a very significant liquidity event in a short period of time, and let's see how we make that thing last. One thing in our communities we don't talk a lot about is legacy and what do we do after. And you're seeing that. You're seeing the legacy that these young men and women are continuing to journey the path that they're journeying on, and we want to be partners in that. And I think what we're doing at UBS is creating a platform where you're seeing all of the other institutions now seem like they're really interested in athletes and want to have a voice and have these different panels where athletes are leading it. But it's great because now they're taking us seriously. They're understanding that we're not going anywhere. And actually, at the end of the day, we're going to be the movers and shakers when it comes to creating culture and deciding where we invest our money, because a lot of these people here are leaders and culture makers. So it's been a fun time. I've been doing it now for 7 years, and the biggest thing is we don't see the athletes as athletes. We see them as businessmen and businesswomen and entrepreneurs and innovators and creators.
Sports drive culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jarvis, everyone on this stage played professionally and made money from sports, but in 2018, you signed a $75 million contract. That is not something everyone here can say.
Jeez.
I mean, we talk about spending wisely and the stories we more often hear about what goes wrong, and just what is that like, and how did you navigate that and stay smart?
Yeah, I think, like I told you yesterday too, I stepped in a couple of things that probably shouldn't have, but I learned my lesson. I think the biggest thing for me, and we all can probably attest to this, being in locker rooms and playing with guys that are older or women that are older, right, that have made decisions that we can learn from without having to make the same mistake, right? So the biggest thing for me, I ran into a guy named Ndamukong Suh, who I played with in Miami, and he was very, very intentional about like taking me under his wing, and I learned things from him that would have took me probably another 5 or 6 years to learn, right? And I think that's the beauty of the locker room, right? That's the beauty of the brotherhood or sisterhood that we get. Now, mind you, I still love nice things. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, but I think when you think about a kid from Convent, Louisiana, that grew up in a family that didn't have financial literacy, right? That didn't have a plan, that was trying to make ends meet, right? And you think about generational stuff that in my heart mattered to me the most, about how do I set my kids up for the future? Does it, we talked about the Lambo, right? Like, does it, is getting a Lambo now more important than, having an estate plan, having a will, having a 529C for my kids, like, what's the most important thing? So I think the biggest thing that I learned from older guys was just to, yeah, you could enjoy the fruits of your labor, but also have a plan. Have a plan about where you see yourself in 10 years, where you see yourself in 15 years. And I think that's allowed me to make better decisions and still enjoy that dollar amount, that check, So, yeah.
Tina, you just missed the monumental new CBA in the WNBA, which is going to change salaries, in a major way.
Change lives.
There we go. And I just want to ask what you make of where the W sits right now. Obviously, we cover the hell out of it, and there's on the court, and then there's off the court, and the cultural conversation. I remember in 2020 there was the Wubble, the women's bubble that the W played in, and everyone said, well, this is the moment. This is for the W. This is finally the moment. And it was a major moment, but it really wasn't the tipping point. And then the tipping point came maybe a few seasons ago, and it's just clear that the W is bigger, more mainstream than it's ever been. Now you're a little bit on the outside looking in. How do you assess?
I think it's an amazing, exciting time for the WNBA and for women's sports in all. There's individuals who want to invest in us. They're following matchups, but they're also seeing us as our authentic selves. We're not looked at as charity more than anything. And so for me personally, it's great. You have to leave things better than how you found it. Like when Lisa Leslie, when it started in '97, like there was the foundation, there was sacrifice. And so that's what I'm excited for. I mean, to the conversation, 75 mil deals, like I hope we're able to have these types of conversations and it becomes normalized for us. But we're just taking it one step at a time. So it's great for this generation that's coming in, and I'm excited about what I'm seeing, not just on the court, but just off the court, just their branding and just how we're handling businesses. So, yeah.
When you were all playing, something I'd ask each of you, and it has definitely become more of a conversation now. Wale, last night you were saying to Jarvis, like, how did you deal with social media? Because when you were playing, it wasn't nearly as big. So all the things we're discussing are much more out in the open. But were players actually talking about the post-career and investing and what you'll do with the money beyond just like, oh, I was in an ad? It's like from the outside looking in as a journalist, you always say like, oh, are guys talking in the locker room about this? And most recently someone said to me, no one really ever did. Was that your experiences while you were playing?
I mean, mine, no, obviously. I mean, you had a few guys like you could look to, like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and George Foreman, who did extremely well, but those were like anomalies. So that's why I'm just in awe of social media, because I think the young men and women get to see, the entrepreneurial side of the athletic world. And we talked, last night about wanting to have those conversations with our owners. I'm seeing more of that. I'm seeing more of the athletes talking about, building on top of their name, brand, and likeness, right? That's stuff that has been going crazy in college, but I'm seeing more of it. In my time, we didn't really talk about it. We actually thought, when I signed my deal, I thought I was going to retire and, at a young age of 33 and just do nothing. Yeah. But what I think we do need to start having that conversation of, even if you do sign, for $75 million, you're still going to retire at a young age. So there still has to be something that gets you out of bed every morning that's going to keep you moving. I think that's going to help athletes in the future, not just about making money, but about finding value. Because we did say as you retire, chemical dependency grows. If you're married, sometimes, divorce rate goes high, depression kicks in. So it's not just about having financial stability, but it's actually getting the athletes in a position where they're moving and are being and they're contributing to society and to themselves, and they're adding and pouring into themselves the same way the sports did for us. We've got to find a different outlet. So I would love for us to have more of those conversations. When I played, we did not, but hopefully it's trending towards a more of a positive standpoint. But I think you guys would probably be able to opine on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think through social media we've seen, guys like LeBron James, right, who has taken it beyond the court. Michael Jordan is another instance of that, obviously superstars, right? But also, Tina, what you're doing, right? Like, that is like what is the inspiring story, and stories connect us all. I truly believe that. And for a lot of us, when I know in the NFL particularly, when you sign that first deal, you think you made it. Your family think they made it. You know what I mean? And 9 times out of 10, that's truthfully not the case, always. But at the same time, it was the older guys that had made some decisions that, and I keep going back to that. I think that it's these conversations, it's panels like this. I think it's people that, they talk about your network is your network, right? Like who you're around, how you're building your community. The biggest thing for me as I transitioned from the NFL was I was big in foundation, like charity, giving back, being inside of the community, helping people, being a resource. And there was real fulfillment in that. I felt like the same way I felt scoring a touchdown, I felt the same way putting a smile on the kid's face, right? And those things are, for most guys, they don't step into that transition that same way, right? Either they have to go back to work or, like you say, it's substance abuse and so on and so forth, right? There's so many stories out there, right? But I think the more that we can share the positive stories and the doors that we can leave open for other people, right? I think that that's the biggest thing moving forward on this journey. And social media it can be a binder of that, right? It could be a negative thing in some ways, right? Depending on how you use it, but it also could be a binding, right? To share stories like Tina's, right? Like to share stories like Wale, and everybody here on the panel or that will speak today, right? That could hopefully inspire somebody in the next generation. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal of your story. That's the goal of your testimony. So I think social media, it could be used negatively, but there's a lot of positives in it.
Yeah, I think to what you're saying is just speaking to what legacy is, right? Just really just what your impact is on others. Like through 78-0, it's not just my story. Like through the sales, we have percent of the sales going to 12 other women that went 78-0, my teammates. There's a percentage of sales through the arenas that's going back to the UConn Foundation for their NIL discretion. So I'm all about just how I go from success to significance. Success is what you accomplish, and significance is just what you're leaving behind for the next generation. And I'm trying to do that by example. So when others get to my side, to the retirement side where we're sitting, they want to look back and how they can impact those around them. Yeah.
And Jarvis made a great point. I think you just learn from people around you. In my case, I learned from former Islanders that, some of them no longer with us when I first came in the league, inviting me to foundation events, having long conversations with them. My father-in-law, Boomer, has a massive foundation as well. And then 15 years ago, I started my own foundation in the area. So the networking, the people you meet, the people to guide you, and it's not just your teammates, whether they do things right or do things wrong, that you can learn from. But and then I think you guys, you always want to pay that forward. When you have great experiences, you remember being a young kid and coming in the NHL, coming in the NFL, WNBA. you have people guiding you along the way. Then the next generation comes. You're retired. You wanna guide them as well. And pro sports really does have great culture. I mean, you see a lot of negative stuff from time to time that individuals are doing, but the people that I've been around, whether it be NFL, NBA, WNBA, the culture is amazing, and these guys all want to help each other. These girls want to help each other, and everyone wants the best for one another.
A few more things I want to bring up while we have you guys. Probably the biggest trend that we see at FOS in the last couple of years dramatically accelerating, athlete ownership. And we're going to have Jason Wright on this next panel, who worked in the NFL, played in the NFL, now at Ariel Investments. So many athletes are buying up minority stakes in teams. Now, not so easy to get into NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL. I mean, these valuations are becoming prohibitively expensive, but we see a ton of American athletes and investors buying stakes in European soccer clubs. Everyone looks at the Wrexham model, but Unrivaled has a number of athlete investors. I mean, all these different upstart, exciting new leagues, from pickleball to SailGP to padel. It feels like right now more than ever, athletes want to be owners. Anyone interested in that trend and have a thought on why now more than ever?
Well, I'll say this. I think every day, every week I get a call from my investment bank that there's a potential buyer of a certain team that wants to have inclusion of an athlete in their deal. I think, everyone, included the investors, understand that there's a needle that athletes and authenticity, and you're able to verify and validate a certain team if you're involved in it. So they know if Jarvis or Tina is involved in this team, you're going to have the community, because, again, you guys have been really great in the community. You guys are giving back. So they see the value add in that. So it's not necessarily want the athletes' capital, because they do, but it's more about your reputation and the things that the athletes have built, and something that you can't buy, right? You can't buy it. And I see investors finding ways to try to tap into the athletes. So not just that the athletes want to be owners, but the investors want to saddle up next to these athletes because they see it's good for business. So from my standpoint, it's only ticking up. Everybody wants to be in that country club of an ownership. And I'm seeing the interest grow, not just only from the athlete side of it, but the investors and the billionaires, they want to be connected to the athletes.
Yeah, I think you hit every point right on the head, and I think I said it too before. It's like your network is your network, right? Like, a lot of times you never really get access to rooms or conversations, right? And we talked about this a little bit more. Obviously, as a football player, you wear a helmet, right? NHL, you wear a helmet. WNBA, but I think as football players, right, you have a small window, right? You're not as visible to people or however you want to look at it. But I think that if you could take advantage of having conversations, asking the right type of questions, right? It allows you, a guy like, again, I refer to him again because he's kind of like the poster child of NFL players for me, was Ndamukong Suh, where a part of his deal with the Miami Dolphins was to be in these meetings with Stephen Ross, who I tip my hat to Stephen Ross, right? Because a lot of players, yeah, even if you're asking the right questions, sometimes you still don't get that access that you're looking for. But Stephen Ross was allowing Ndamukong Suh to be a part of infant stages of F1, which we know is one of the biggest racing circuits in America and in the world, right? Globally, right? Also, other residential stuff and commercial stuff that was coming up, right? Which allowed Ndamukong Suh to walk in the doors and meet people that then, being around Ndamukong Suh, now I can meet someone, right? Or I can bring someone a part of this, dinner or lunch or whatever it is, and, have conversations that opens other doors, right? And I think, you look at guys like Malcolm Jenkins, right, who's started his own fund, right, for athletes, for players. Something that's very unique, something that, you don't see a lot of professional players do, right? Most people would either join a bank or, join a firm or a management company. But, through his expertise and asking the right questions, getting in the right rooms, understanding cap tables and et cetera, right? He's able to create a door, right, for other athletes. And I think that that's one of the things that, when I see guys like that, Tina, yourself, Wale, as well, you're right, I feel like that's the story that we have to just keep sharing. That's the message that we have to keep pushing forward. But yeah, you hit everything else on the head, bro.
Yeah, I would say, as you were speaking, all that kept saying to me was like, you have to make a choice in order to take a chance, in order to have change. And me saying that is like, if we have opportunity, and I'm saying we like women, and especially black women, for us to be viewed different, to what you were saying, for us not to be viewed as athletes, we're used to having to endorse products, to scale somebody's business. But now when you get into ownership, you get to be a part of creating the asset and making the decisions and taking the risk. So in order to have change of how we're viewed or how we want to be viewed, we have to be in these rooms. So it's like, why not us? You have to step up if you can.
And then lastly, I'd probably say like the reason why ownership of anything would be intriguing to athletes is I feel like my whole life I've heard it's not going to last forever. The money's not going to last forever. You have a short window to make your money. So owning something, investing in something, that can become generational wealth. If the beer company takes off, we have kids, we want everybody to enjoy the fruits of our labor, all these things. So I think it's the other side of it that you're looking to keep cash flow coming in, have investment in what you're doing as well. Like we've been investing in our bodies our whole lives. Our contracts were the validation of everything we've done in our sports. So to be able to own something and build it and build it and build it, and hopefully take it to that next level, that's money that's coming in, hopefully for the rest of your life.
Okay, so when one of the four of you becomes a minority investor in a pro team, you better come to us, and we'll break the news at FOS. We're all roasting up here in the sun. Great conversation.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing about this event is these guys will still be here. So when you walk around at lunch, go up, say hi. Thank you guys so much. Cheers, Tina, with the Tina beer.
Thank you.
Great conversation. We'll leave it there.